Hi, it's Zena Krogodal and Grant Quezada. Today, we live in the studio. I cannot wait to introduce him to you. Today is a great day, and we are on American Dream Makers. I am Zena Krogodal, your host, and I'll get back to you real soon. Here's my intro Hello, I'm back. It's Zena Krogodal and Grant Quezada in the house. And it's so exciting. Grant is an Army Ranger veteran and a local owner, co-owner of Founding Fathers Collective. Many of you here in the Prescott area know who Grant is. And so today we get to know all about him. So Grant, welcome so much. Thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on, Zena. It's a pleasure. It's great to see what you're doing. Thanks a lot for obviously your continued support and impact in the community. So it's awesome. So,
well, I appreciate it. I appreciate everything that you do for our community. You are a huge impact. So I just want to get started. Why don't you tell us about who you are and how you ended up owning Founding Fathers?
Yeah, so I grew up here in Prescott. My folks moved here when I was about 5 from Southern California. Met my wife in 2nd grade at Christian Academy and didn't start dating till I guess after high school. So, for me, it was Granite Mountain, by Judd, Granite Mountain, and then PHS. Got in a little bit of trouble when I was 16, and that pretty much ended my high school days, and ended up moving out to Missouri, Springfield, Missouri at the age of 19. Was a hairdresser for 3 years, worked for a buddy of mine, him and his wife own a phenomenal salon out there, and about 15 barbershops now. So, great guy to work for. It was a solid career, and about 23 figured I need to do something else. I couldn't see myself cutting women's hair for the next 30 years of my life. So I joined the Army and that was back in 2006. I spent 8 years in special operations. So 2nd Ranger Battalion, 75th Ranger Regiment, 6 deployments to Iraq and Afghanistan, myriad of different jobs. I think the last main position I held, I was a sniper for about 5 years in battalion and 4 deployments. And then my wife and I got married in 2006. So right after I joined basic training, we got married that December, and we spent 8 years up at Fort Lewis, Washington in Tacoma. And then we decided to move back in 2014 when I got out. So that was, I think that was, June, and moved back. I was working at Nyla D's salon in town with Jenny Bacon for a year. And then during that first couple months, I started John Hancock Barbershop and grew it from 1 chair to 2 locations. And I think we had 9 chairs in about 14 months, and kind of kept growing it for, 4 years until I partnered with my business partner, Jesse Burke. So brought him on board as a consultant, kind of told him some of the other things I wanted to do. We ended up purchasing the building we're in right now at 218 North Granite Street, which is downtown Prescott, 12,000 square foot kind of warehouse. And then from that came Founding Fathers Collective and all the other businesses that are inside that we own. I think there's 6 of them. And then we have a good friend, Rob Johnson, who owns Mountain Tribe Jiu-Jitsu. So that's the other business. So we have a City Tavern tap wall, which is the largest tap wall in the state of Arizona. We have Merchant Coffee, specialty coffee shop, John Hancock Barbershop. We have Founders Gym, Liberty Mercantile, a small whiskey and cigar room, and then a speakeasy that's kind of tucked. The amount of people that think they're always walking downstairs. Oh, wait, I just went downstairs. It was great. It's like, there is no stairs in this place. You just go straight through the door and another door, and that's it. You're in. But it's good.
That's after all after all the beer and wine that they drink. That's why they think there's stairs.
Yeah.
I know. And if you guys haven't been to Founding Fathers Collective, you really do need to head down there. There's nothing like it that we have ever seen in Prescott. And honestly, there's not very many places like it, even in the nation. I mean, this is a very, very unique and amazing facility. And I do want to talk definitely more about Founding Fathers Collective, but I do want to go back a little bit, Grant. So you grew up here in Prescott.
I did.
Yeah. And you graduated from Prescott High School?
Yes, I would have, except I got in trouble, so I didn't graduate.
Okay. So. And that's when you joined the Army?
Yeah, a couple years after. So I got in trouble at 16 and I got my GD, and then did a couple years at Yavapai for college. Kind of the things that interested me were philosophy and religious studies and stuff where I realized psychology. My mom's a psychologist here in town. My wife's a social worker. And so kind of was going down that path of just, I love people and just getting to know people. And so moving in that direction, then realizing if I do this, I'm going to have to get up to a PhD. And I just didn't have it in me. So
got it. Yeah. Got it. So got in trouble and tried to make something, doing a few things, taking college classes, like, what we're told to do, basically, if you want to better your life, go to college. And then you decided, nope, not for me. So I'm going to join the Army. Did you have the sights of being an Army Ranger when you joined the Army? How did that end up happening?
Yeah. So probably in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, I got, really into military history. And so I was always, your typical younger boy, probably ADHD back then, which I think it was just kind of trending. But, the excitement of kind of that type of career path. And so I read a ton of books back then about the SEALs, Rangers, SF, or Green Berets, same thing. And when the war kicked off, I was a few days away from turning 18. So I was unable to go in at 18 just due to the troubles I had when I was 16. So I needed about 6 years of kind of proving that I was integrated back into society at a normal level, and I could, I could function as a normal adult. So at 22, there was a small window that each one of the branches of the military kind of opened up for, I think it was like Navy, Army, and Marine Corps, and they kind of overlapped each other, but it was like 04, 05, 06. Each one would open up for about 9 months to a year. And so in 06, went into an Army recruiter, and I was able to get in. And so I knew I wanted to do a career in special operations. At that point, I knew that, I assumed the war would be over relatively soon. And so the fastest way to get into special operations within the special operations community is Ranger Regiment. So all the other units have kind of their selection processes that usually last a year to 2 years. And then you get to your unit and then you're a special operations guy. In Ranger Regiment, it kind of is in reverse. So you go through a couple month selection process, and then you get into Ranger Regiment. And then while you're there, that's when you go to all the different schools that you would normally attend on the front end with the other units. So it's more of like a baptism by fire. And, our deployment cycles for us is every 6 months. So we deploy for 4 to 6 months, and then we're home for, 4 to 6 months. And so it's a very, very fast op tempo, and you're constantly going to different schools and a lot of different training. And so, it's, like I said, baptism by fire. You jump in, and you're in there as a brand new guy, and you're on a deployment with, your senior leadership that have maybe been on 8 to 12 deployments, and you're one of the only new guys. So you have a lot of experience in your platoon, but you'll have a few brand new guys, like 1 or 2 that have no deployments. But over the course of a year, 2, 3 years, you've now amassed 3, 4, 5 deployments. And so it's very quickly you get that experience, combat experience. So,
and I picture Army Ranger training. I believe there was a show out a while ago where the husband and wife are dropped into like a wilderness. And I believe his background, he's an Army Ranger, and learning to survive off just the land. Like they don't have anything else. And so you just kind of watch them kind of go through all those things. And so for me, I picture training as being very intense. There's really no resources other than, what's around you and what you have on you. That's it. And, and if you can figure out how to manage and use all these things, you're going to survive. Is that?
Yeah, that's partially true. So prior to GWAT, or the Global War on Terror, I think a lot more of the special operations units would conduct a lot more of those trainings where you're out for days on end, and you have those opportunities to train in more of a survival setting. But when the GWAT kicked off, and especially by the time I came in 2006, the operation tempo was so high that a lot of those other skill sets had kind of gone to the wayside, just because what really needed to be focused on was our main bread and butter, which was it's nighttime operations, and majority of all our mission sets were just kill capture missions. So we only went out when we're going after bad guys or high value targets. And so every kind of special operations unit gravitated towards that type of mission set over the last 20 years. And a lot of the other stuff that would be our anchor points within each one of the communities, just because of the war, they kind of get pushed down to the bottom, because your capabilities, you can only do so much. And when you're in wartime, it's like, hey, this is the main focus. This is the bread and butter for these operations, these missions. I've talked to friends now that the war's kind of over, what they're doing, they've kind of reset back into kind of the pre-war training. And so a lot of the stuff you're mentioning, where it's, hey, it's more applicable, let's broaden our bandwidth, see what we're capable of doing, do different types of training missions and sets, whether it's in the United States or outside the United States. So.
Wow. Okay. Well, obviously, as an special ops Army Ranger, you have to be able to think on the fly, have major critical thinking skills, like, and fast. We're not talking, you don't have a lot of time. Sometimes you don't have months and days. You got to think about it like right away. Things adjust. I mean, things change, right? So you can train all day long for months, however long you're training for. But when you get out into actual mission field, there are things that can happen that you did not plan for.
Yeah, Murphy's Law takes over, I would say 90% of the time. So you plan for your operations and then your contingencies, and when stuff goes awry that isn't unplanned for, because you have all that training, your brain takes over and you just default to certain battle drills, or knowing, hey, I've been in this situation multiple times. And so it's not like you're necessarily, there's some thinking involved, but there's the ability to react takes over a lot more quickly, and being able to be calm and collected in those situations, to where, hey, I've done this, 500 times in training, and now it's my 100th time doing it in real life, and then that metric just keeps growing. So I think when I left, I had about probably 400, 450, real world missions overseas, where that's all we're doing is just going out after high value targets or targets of opportunity to disrupt the terrorist cells that were either in Iraq or Afghanistan. So,
yeah, those are you were on some pretty big deployments. When you're talking high value targets, that's not just little average Joe.
Yeah,
obviously, and there's a lot of components to risking your life and everybody around you, and so those are huge. And I find it very I guess interesting, and I've known, I'm not a veteran myself, but been around many, but that you train so much. And my husband was in law enforcement, so I know you train and so that you are calm in the facing the actual high stress, high event that's happening. And so that's interesting to hear that. What if we trained in life to prepare? How much better would we be when the actual things, hit the fan, so to speak,
Yeah. It's, for me, that was one of the biggest reasons to go into the military. So outside of patriotic duty, or the idea or concept of service and duty, it was really, hey, by affording or choosing to afford the ability to go in, especially at the highest levels you can achieve within the special operations communities, it really sets you up for, when you leave the military, you have ingrained in yourself for the years that you've spent in the military. It's like, hey, I've experienced a lot worse. I've put myself through a lot worse mentally and physically in austere environments, or whatever that might be. And so when you transition back into kind of normal life, I think that's really allowed me personally to step into the business side of things more as an entrepreneur, which a lot of it is hurdles and problem solving and figuring stuff out on the fly and just adapting and overcoming. So because of my military experience and how normal that had become, and I'd kind of, that's just an accustomed way of life, stepping into business and trying to succeed at different levels within the community and at large, it really allowed me the ability to just overcome those hurdles and, kind of let stuff just roll off my back, like the failures or the walls that we hit or whatever it might be. It's like, hey, it's just minor setback. We'll figure a new way out of it. Just keep charging on and everything, especially in business, everything. And this, it's like everything comes down to relationships. How well do you know other people? Do you have a host of individuals that will speak into your life and give the wisdom and experience that they've had? Will they share that with you? And that goes a long way. Always finding people that are a few years ahead of you or 20 years ahead of you, and finding the right avenues and platforms to build those relationships and grow from there. So.
And I'm glad that you bridged the two together, that, because of your military experience and the training that you had, that it's helped you to become a successful entrepreneur, because it requires very similar skills in, like you said, adapting and overcoming and problem solving and not panicking when you're looking at sometimes you feel like a dire situation. Mm-hmm. And I really love that you also talk about how important relationships are, because I think there's a lot of people who struggle, especially when they're starting out their business, that they feel like, I don't need help. I can do this on my own. I'll get this figured out. And they don't necessarily reach out for help. But what you're saying is that really the key to success is building that relationship, building that circle of people, that network, mm-hmm. because together you can thrive and grow. Just like in your military experience, going on missions, I know we watch movies of Rambo and there's a one-man show kind of thing, but that reality is that's not the case. When you're achieving a mission and you got high value targets, you're not going to be able to do it alone. You got to have a group of people backing you.
Yeah, everything comes down to a team. And I think in good leaders too, the ability to lead, but then empower people as well. So I'm a huge proponent of finding the right people for the right positions, giving them the autonomy to succeed. And if they fail, nothing is going to, I always joke with other people, but it's like, I'm not getting shot at anymore. So what's the worst that's going to happen? Like no one person is going to do something in that business, or for most of us, one decision is not going to implode everything. You can fix stuff, and in small setbacks and failures, that's the ability to actually learn and not see it as, hey, I failed, but it's a learning curve. And if we're not continually growing and continually learning, then sadly, most of us just stay stagnant in our lives. And that's a bad place to be in. So,
yeah. So I guess getting comfortable being uncomfortable is another key, is what I'm hearing, what you're saying. Don't be afraid of failing, because what you're saying is it's really not a negative thing. It's a learning lesson.
Yep.
In fact, I hear many say, you want to fail fast and fail forward quickly.
Yes. Yeah, that's one of my mottos, like fail forward.
Yeah.
As long as I'm falling forward and getting back up and falling forward, it's like I'm gaining momentum or ground.
And that's what American Dream Makers are all about. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's what this country, I believe, is founded on. And your place of business called Founding Fathers Collective, it's such an American Dream Maker name, and so going back, so you got out of the military. You and Veronica had been married for
at that time, 2014, 8 years.
8 years.
Yeah. And
so she had been through all the deployments with you, you also had children in this time frame.
So we had our oldest son, Noah, about 5 years into being married in the military. And my wife is an amazing woman, but we did the math, I think year 7, and we averaged, I think it was like 2.5 months a year we were together. So the rest of the time I was deployed once or twice a year. And then just at different schools throughout the different training events. So everything to keep up with that op tempo of, hey, did we check all the blocks before we can go do this again overseas? Like, because guys are coming in to the unit, guys are leaving, going to different units, or you just getting out of the military. So it's just constantly, you're just training, making sure that everything is up to par and everybody's like on the same page. So,
well, and then, when you're talking about, being deployed that many times and you only saw each other 2.5 months out of those 8 years, that's hard on a relationship. And you have to be married to an amazing woman to have been able to have worked through that, and not only that, but you're in special ops. You're not just, in the military serving, on, being a, I don't know, MP patrolman, on the base or whatever, and not to minimize it, but you're coming into very secretive things that it's like, you can't come home and talk about what happened in that 8.5 months or,
Yep. Very true. You kind of compartmentalize everything pretty well. And I believe for myself and a lot of my peers that kind of come out of those communities, the amount of training that you go through really sets you up for success in dealing with what you've seen or been a part of overseas. So you're able to, it's like you're always stepping into the battle space with, an NFL team where everybody's highly trained and competent, and you can rely on each other. And then our basic deployments were, hey, you train up, you deploy, and within 24 hours of landing on the ground, you're operational. So, and usually it's within 12. So I remember there's plenty of deployments where we land, unload all our stuff, go into the briefing room, kind of do our handover from the unit that was there before us. Like, hey, what are you guys doing? Who are you targeting? Okay, hey, we can go hit this tonight, and same thing with when we left, it was you're operational up until 12 hours before you leave. And so you're going out onto a target, you come back, you pack your bags, hop a flight, you're back into the United States. There is no downtime. We literally would hop a flight, land back in America, and unload your gear, and you're back to normal life. So,
wow. Yeah, pretty crazy. Thank you so much. Yes, Grant is definitely a great supporter of the Prescott community. Great guy for sure. Hey, if you are on here, if you can go to streamyard.com/Facebook and give Facebook permission to basically let us know who you are when you're commenting, because we'd love to see your name and we appreciate your comments. And if you have any questions for Grant, please feel free to put it in the chat. He will be more than happy to answer any questions you might have. So, and absolutely share this out, because this is a great message. This is a great inspirational story. I really appreciate you sharing all of that, Grant. And I know that's not easy for any family. You're talking about kids, you're talking about wife. So you're going out there, doing all these things, like I said, and I know you can't come back and talk about them. So then you don't even get to have the emotional release or whatever, the stress release that you need. You have to hold it together when you're on your missions. Like you said, there's no, panicking, because if you panic, you can't think. And so when you come back, you decide to open up your own business, and you started out with, you had John Hancock. Was that right after the military?
Yes. Yeah. So I moved back to Prescott in August of 2014, and then I started John Hancock in December. And so relatively quickly, when I moved back, I knew I wanted to get back into business. I'd been reading business books since I was 16. I think the first one I read was, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, when I was 16, and then Tony Robbins and several other books like that. So even when I was in the military, just constantly reading books on, personal growth and development. And then the business side of life was always extremely attractive. And so I knew when I came back, hey, I just want to, kind of do my own thing, chart a course forward, make an impact where I can, serve the community. And the two ways I could have done that in the profession I had been in previously was I could either go into women's hair and open up a salon, or barbering. And at the time, I think Prescott in the region kind of had 11 barbershops, and there was like 160 salons. So I knew, well, that's the niche I'm going to go after first, and then use that platform, speaking of John Hancock Barbershop, to continue to grow and add new businesses and ventures. And took about 4 years, 2 locations. And then, like I'd mentioned, hiring or brought on my buddy Jesse Burke, who's an Air Force veteran, and he used to do a lot of business consulting. So he came on board, helped button up all the loose ends that needed to be fixed within John Hancock. And then from there, it was like, hey, what else can we tackle and do? And so out of that came Founding Fathers Collective and all the other shenanigans that's there.
So how did you come up with the concept of Founding Fathers, and how did you come up with the name of Founding Fathers Collective?
So the concepts all came out of largely how do we focus on providing a really phenomenal third space for people to hang out in. So most people go and frequent either bars, coffee shops, some of these other ventures within communities that people tend to feel like they can gravitate towards and be a part of something, and kind of find their community focus. And so that's really how that came out of. So when we started looking and really thinking about what other concepts do we want to add to this, it was, hey, well, we can add, a bar concept, we can add coffee, we can add a gym, and really focus on providing space that people can come into to accommodate for a myriad of different reasons or times throughout their day. And so our core values are community, connection, and care, and really bringing people together. And, we work in the hospitality space, so very much focused on how well are we serving other people, how well are we providing a place that is inviting and inclusive to everybody within the community, bringing people together, providing an atmosphere where people can engage with and talk to others, and really provide balance within the community. So I think as a nation, especially politically, we've moved further and further to the extremes, and you need places where you can have healthy dialogue and come and sit down and just enjoy the company of other people. So that was really a huge focus of ours. And then the names came out of really John Hancock. So when I came up with John Hancock, it was just something that was something that would be a sticking point, So as a name, it was like, hey, John Hancock, everybody remembers who that is. They at least know his signature. And so that's, it was John Hancock Barbershop, a signature experience. And then out of that, it was playing off of how else can we kind of stay in that same vein without moving the business to something campy that you might see at Disneyland or something like that. And so Founding Fathers Collective, City Tavern is the tap wall. That's also where the Declaration of Independence was written by our Founding Fathers. Merchant Coffee was where the Declaration was read to the public for the first time. And then Liberty Mercantile, which is like a small retail shop of ours, that was based off of John Hancock's mercantile ship called the Liberty Mercantile. So he was a merchant, and he used that ship to kind of do a lot of raids on the British ships. And so, and then Founders Gym, of course, I assume that back in the day, our founding fathers and others would lift weights. Probably not, though. But we had to do something. So,
yeah, no, that's great, and that's very, very creative for sure. And, coming up with a concept and bringing it into Prescott, and not only that, but you want to talk about risk taking. I remember when you guys opened up, it was right in the middle of COVID.
Yes, yeah. So October of 2020. At that point, we'd had 7 months of COVID, and we just made a kind of a decision. Hey, we're gonna open up. We're gonna be normal. We won't be rude about it, but at the same point, we're not going to placate to the fears that were kind of being had within the media, like, how they tend to sensationalize stuff. So at that point, looking within our local community, you could see pretty well the data had showed, hey, this isn't affecting everybody as much as the media leads on when it comes to, hey, everybody's dying. It's like, no, that's not really the case. So we just opened, and by the grace of God, just kind of coasted through it, and everybody was extremely, I got a lot of compliments for just, hey, thank you for just providing a place that's normal, that we can come to and just be a part of, and feel like things for the most part are pretty normal within our community. So
that's what I had observed. And I think it was advantageous that maybe you did open up during COVID. Maybe that was a God plan that, you didn't anticipate, but because there were so many other places that weren't open, this was the only place that was really open for business, that you could come and see your friends and hang out and just have that environment. And like you said, and it was just a comfortable environment to just come and gather together. And then they got to experience what Founding Fathers Collective had to offer. And so, it didn't take long, I think, for people to be sold on Founding Fathers once they stepped into that environment. But had other places been open, you may not have had the same amount of foot traffic that fast.
Yes, very true. So
yeah,
it worked out for us, and it's continually, it's continually growing, and it's a success. So it's a fun place to create, fun place to work at. The team there is awesome. So everybody really takes ownership of being a part of that place, and which has allowed us really a very high retention rate for our staff. And we just haven't really gone through a lot of the other problems that some of the other hospitality, I guess some of the local hospitality industry has faced when it comes to retention or staffing or pay or some of the very real issues that everybody kind of traversed together through COVID. So.
And what would you attribute that to, your success of being able to retain staff? I know it is a great environment, but what do you attribute that you have that's different than what other people are offering to the staff?
Jesse and I were really focused on our overall vision of what we're trying to provide for the community, but also internally, how are we treating our staff? How do we invest into them and what their goals and visions are for themselves? So we're under no false pretenses that we work in hospitality. The majority of these individuals are not going to be with us for 5, 10, 15 years. So how do we help set them up for as much success as possible, expand their network? If they leave, absolutely fine. The goal is that they leave and they do something better. They do something that they want to do, whatever their passions are, whether it's some of our local college students that work with us, or individuals that are going to take careers or jobs down in the valley, whatever it might be. And so we never were super focused on, I guess, the selfish aspect of feeling like, hey, this is ours. We need to run it like a very tight ship and dominating everybody's decisions. And for us, it was the autonomy and the latitude to allow people to just work there and have the best experience they can in a working environment and help set them up for success as much as possible, which in turn, rolls out to how they represent Founding Fathers as a brand to the rest of the community that comes in. So
that's a great concept. So you're investing in your employees, you're investing in their best interest and building them as a person. It sounds like you're not just treating them as, you're here clocking in and clocking out, but we really want to see you grow and thrive and hope you stay. But if you go, we also wish you the best, and we gave you some skills and some assets, so to speak, to have successful life.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So.
That's fantastic. Because your place definitely takes a lot of staffing.
Yeah, I think we have about 65 total. So it's a pretty large for the hospitality industry anywhere, but for here it's rather large. There's quite a number of staff that makes that thing run. We're open from 6 to midnight, almost 7 days a week. So a lot of moving pieces, and a lot of the importance of just providing very clear expectations, but then also the freedom and autonomy to allow people to just step into those roles wherever they're at in the business and just thrive on their own without us watching over their shoulders all day long. So
yeah, that's great. Yeah, and stepping in as a customer, as a member, it actually is a very nice environment. Like, you don't have the sense that the staff is, just angry or disgruntled. Sometimes you go to the hospitality industry and you're at a restaurant, you can tell when some of the staff is just not having a good day, and they show it. And it really reflects, like you said, the business. Now, that individual just may be having a bad day, but for whatever reason, they're having a hard time composing themselves and, letting the show go on. But yet your staff, and I know, you don't always have a perfect day at work. I mean, that's the case. There's always something going on. You got tough customers sometimes and that sort of thing. But when you're investing the way you are, that does reflect in the staff, and that they probably are learning skills to be able to, okay, this situation's not happening as it should, but I'm not going to take it out on the next customer.
Yeah, that's huge. And I think more in today's working space, people really are moving more towards, lifestyle, a healthy work-life balance. The importance of relationships are huge. And so the ability to share that with everybody. I would say almost all my success comes from the relationships I previously have had or currently have or continually grow. And just finding those people that believe in what we're doing. And with that, that's largely where we found a lot of our investors, were people seeing, hey, this young guy's got it. He has drive and determination, and, we're willing to invest in his success. And so just encouraging that with a lot of our team, giving them the ability, whether they're a 21-year-old, young man or woman that works there, and hey, use this as a tool to get to know other people, expand your own network, expand the growth that you want to do. We have a lot of individuals coming in from Riddle that are moving into aerospace or pilots or a myriad of other individuals that they know, and we know that they're not going to be here forever. So encouraging them to step out of their comfort zone and really invest into people and focus on, hospitality and service to others. Because it really doesn't matter what industry you're in, you're always going to be dealing with people. And so if you don't have those just proper skill sets and know how to work with people and grow relationships, you're not going to get far in life, and your IQ and your hard work will only take you to such a level or length or level of success, at which point you really need to rely more heavily on your EQ or your relational abilities. So
awesome. So, definitely congratulations to having a very successful business. And I definitely see Founding Fathers Collective being a part of the Prescott community for quite some time. It's going to be one of those names that probably will be associated with our community for a long time, because you guys are truly making an impact, because you're not just a business place, but you guys also serve in our community in so many ways. And I do want to thank, Founding Fathers Collective for sure. You have been a great supporter of VA Rep, the Veterans Association of Real Estate Professionals. So you continuously support veteran services and organizations. So you're out there not only just helping, the community in itself, but you're also really helping veterans to achieve their American dream. And so thank you so much to Founding Fathers for always being supportive. And then you also, you were telling me that you also do fundraisers for helping with human trafficking?
Yeah. So myself and several other special operations buddies over the course of the last 7 years now have been doing annual fundraising and events for a few different entities that focus on, one, the actionable side of things, which is helping rescue women and children out of sex trafficking or sex working. And then just as importantly on the back end, all the support that's needed to integrate them back into society or help them talk through and process and deal with what they've experienced. And so that's a huge passion. I think most people don't understand or realize how detrimental and how real that industry actually is on a global level. So I think annually, the last I checked was, I believe that industry alone is about $24 billion a year throughout the entire world. And whether it's, kidnapping young kids or women, and, at the worst, it's sex trafficking, but to slave labor, some of these other things. I mean, it happens on our own border walls here constantly. You would see it overseas. So it's something that is not new to humanity, but I think in today's modern age, with the ability for social media and the internet and media in general, more of the word is getting out of how, how absolutely devastating this is on a international level when it comes to that type of industry. And so, how can we play our part and try to stop what we can? And so that's been another huge passion of ours over the last 7 years.
Well, thank you so much for having that passion, because it is certainly, you probably have seen some of that firsthand, even on your deployment. Just the human trafficking issue is it's huge and unfortunate. And somebody, we all need to come together and really fight for that, because it's a tragic thing.
Yeah, it's modern day slavery, really, played out on a global level. So.
Yeah. So thank you so much for having that, heart of compassion, and then just acting on it and doing something about it. So that's awesome. So to, those that are looking at perhaps starting their own business, or they're just starting their own business, what advice would you give them?
First, probably the best book you can read out of the gate is The E-Myth. And so, I think that was written back in maybe the late 70s or early 80s, right when I got started. My previous CPA, who's a friend of mine, he'd recommended that book. And then two, so it breaks down kind of the E stands for entrepreneur. So the entrepreneurial myth. So you're either a technician in any space that you work in, or you're a manager, or at the highest level, you're an entrepreneur. And so he goes through kind of the breakdown of what that means and how to get to those certain levels throughout any career path. So that's very important. And then two, very clearly defining your why of what you're doing and why you're doing it, and then what you think you're going to be offering to the marketplace, and how are you doing or delivering that differently than other people that are within that space that you're trying to venture into. And then three, just as important, is the people you're serving, your relationships and how you're growing, and always acknowledging the people that helped in your success, finding people that are willing to help you out in your success, gleaning as much information as you can from people. That's allowed me to succeed in my own life and within business. So very important.
That's a great tip. In fact, I think you might be the second person that talked about the E-Myth. I had somebody on this week that mentioned the E-Myth book. So you guys definitely get the E-Myth book. That we've got some entrepreneurs who've been successful because they read it. So definitely get that. And to the veteran who is coming out of the military and back into civilian life, what would be your advice? Because I know that transitional period can be very, very tough.
Yep. So I would say, I talk to a lot of young men and women with aspirations of going into the military. And so for me, there was a few things that I set very clear in my mind before I went in. And then when I was in, it just became more and more apparent. But the two things were, most of the men that I served with were all friends of circumstance. And so the circumstance being that we're going to war and that everybody is highly motivated and very smart and articulate and physically capable of doing the mission set, but that doesn't necessarily put us all in the same category in the context that we're all friends. But we just have a common mission. And so it's good to surround yourself with those individuals and kind of be in that tribe. But don't allow that to become who you are, which leads into the next focus, which was I was very aware that however long I stay in the military, whether it was 2 years or 25 years, it would not become my identity. So it would become a part of who I was and what I've done, and it would allow me to grow and succeed in different capacities. But I as soon as I left the military, I knew, hey, that's part of me, but it's not going to, I will not allow that to dictate the next step in everything I do moving forward in my life. So if you're leaving the military, have a very clearly defined understanding of who you are and what you want to do, and understand that at the end of the day, not to sound callous, but you're pretty much a cog in the machine. And that's a good thing. The military is set up to continually move on, whether you're a part of the system or not. And you can do 2 years, you can do 30 years, but as soon as you leave, that's it. You're done. You're out of that brotherhood or sisterhood. You're out of that service focused mission set, and you need to be able to redefine who you really are. And that is paramount. I think a lot of people, when they transition out, they're not aware of who they really are. And so their whole identity hinges on their experiences they had overseas or in the military. And it becomes a stumbling stone for their own success when they transition back into the civilian world. And then another part of that too would be, that proverbial kind of chip on your shoulder is, I'm a veteran, so stuff is owed to me. Or people don't understand, which there's some truth maybe in some of that, but at the same point, don't allow that to become your kind of mantra as you continually move through life. That's a part of who you were, what you've done. But most of us are in their mid 20s or 30s or early 40s when you leave, and you still have a whole nother 40, 50, 60 years of life. And you don't want to be the person who spent 3 years in the military and you're 70 and somehow you're still that, 20-year-old kid that this is my whole life. This is what I did. Nobody understands. It's like, well, that's fine, but you need to move on. So thanks for your service.
Well, thank you for your advice, and really grateful for your service to our country and to our community, and that you have been able to achieve and adapt and overcome adversity. You've obviously demonstrated that. And I know, life is always a continuous battle. I mean, we always have something that we're working on, and so I thank you for being that leader, showing and inspiring and influence and impacting this world, this community. So is there any other last thing that you want to leave the audience with? Anything else?
Stay humble and stay hungry. So always remember the importance of humility, and never sacrifice your internal drive to succeed, whatever that might look like for yourself. Awesome.
So foundingfatherscollective.com, if you want to know more about foundingfatherscollective.com. And for those of you who don't live in the Prescott area, come to Arizona, fly in. You can fly into Phoenix. Prescott's not very far up north, and it's such a beautiful town. Come visit, and definitely come visit Founding Fathers Collective. And if you see Grant, definitely let him know that you say hello. It's a great experience, you guys. The backside sits right next to the creek, and just sitting outside and just enjoying the outdoors. I mean, for those of you who enjoy cigars and whiskey, this is the place as well. It's got everything for everybody.
Beer, wine. You can play cornhole.
Get your hair cut.
Golf a couple rounds.
Yeah, golf. There you go. Putt. So. And then you also have food trucks, which, you have some great food trucks around for food wise. And then is it 60 beers on tap?
65.
65 beers
we're
on
the
tap.
largest self-serve in the state of Arizona. So
that's amazing. So it's cool. You walk in, you get this bracelet, and you can try all of the 65 beers if that's what you want to do.
Yes.
And there's also wine on tap as well.
Yeah, so we have wine, ciders, meads, beer. Usually we have like one or two non-alcoholics, so root beers or other stuff that people might enjoy, kids, so.
And then for those of you that are local or even just from the Phoenix area or Tucson or somewhere nearby that you come up to Prescott a lot, if you want to, look at becoming a member so you can get into the really cool speakeasy, you definitely should talk to Grant about that, because being a member is actually pretty cool. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the advantages of being a member?
Yeah. So when we built out the speakeasy, the main focus was obviously we have a liquor license, and so a huge part of Jesse and I, our goal with that was, hey, we don't want to debase or degrade everybody to really highlighting just people drinking all the time, and how do we have a controlled environment of people that are doers and achievers within the community that see value in other people and what they're doing, or the impact they're trying to make within the community. And so we turned it into an annual membership. There's a couple different levels of pricing, but the goal really was to put a lot of the individuals who are making an impact within Prescott and the community at large into the same room, and therefore it more like an organic setting for networking and doing business together or life together. And then on top of that, depending on what level you are, you have the ability to come back to get monthly coffees or beers or haircuts or the gym. And so it was a way for us to also maximize the overall membership without it just being a bar and you're exclusively a member of a speakeasy. But now you can come back and enjoy coffees in the morning, or get a haircut or shave or work out. So that'll continually grow. But that was really the focus of like, how do we do something unique that collects the right type of people with the right type of mindset, achievers and doers, and people that are service minded in the context of what they either own or who they're attached to, but they do care genuinely about the community at large and giving back. So it's been an awesome concept.
It has been an awesome concept, and we enjoy just hanging out at Founding Fathers. Sometimes we just take our computers and make it our office space for a few hours, because it's a great environment. There are some great people who walk in and out the door. It's like seeing family, honestly, most of the time. And if they're not family, they become family pretty quickly. That's, I think, just the beauty of our community, is that we are a friendly town. Mm-hmm. And as a real estate agent, I can tell you that your place is kind of one of the highlights that real estate agents will take clients to. Hey, come check out Founding Fathers, as we're trying to, get people to purchase homes. So that's great. So it is definitely, a highlight on the tour of things to see in Prescott, and, why you want to be a part of the community. So absolutely. If you were thinking about being a member, my husband is a member. Founding Fathers keeps my husband looking really sharp. So
he's sharp dressed, and then his haircuts get really good.
I tell him, my goodness, you could be like a model. So, but yeah, so that's how good they are. And no matter who he sees, they're all exceptional. The staff is exceptional. The quality of the beer and wine and all that is exceptional too. So you guys, you can't go wrong. So absolutely make sure you drop in, say hello to Grant, and thank Grant for his service. And, he's a great guy. His family's great. So anyways, definitely be sure to reach out. And if you need, some tips on if you're starting a business or whatever, get a hold of Grant. He's very easy to talk to.
I love talking to people, so you can come and ask me anything or bother me for time, and I love giving it freely. So
awesome. And that's true. I've definitely, he does, and he gives a lot of his time. So you guys, I want to just say thank you so much for being here and listening. If you found this of value, please be sure to share this out. What a wonderful message that Grant has given us. And it's just so nice to see, somebody really thriving and being able to really overcome a lot of adversities and being successful. So I'm going to say goodbye for now. So be blessed, you guys.